So there's a story in Texas. A man was trying to help his 7-year-old from transitioning. He got with somebody, and this crazy chick has been pushing one of his twin boys to transition since he was about 4 or 5. It goes out without saying, 7-year-olds have no concept of gender and they cannot choose their gender. If they learn anything about it, it's because somebody was trying to push them into it. And this was done by a jury where only one person on the jury had common fucking sense, and 11 out of the 12 voted that he was not allowed to maintain the custody of his child to protect him from being transitioned. So now they're wanting to put this kid on hormone blockers, which hormone blockers lead to a lot of problems. Mainly because the hormones that you have in your body are supposed to be there. They help develop your brain correctly. And things like estrogen help with keeping depression away. Low testosterone in men is linked to diabetes, heart disease, and obesity. And now you're wanting to make sure a kid will not have the correct hormones that he needs to avoid these problems, and 2, will not have the correct hormones that they need in order for their brain to develop fully. 3, to make sure that they don't have the hormones that they need for the body to develop correctly. There's a reason why men and girls develop differently because of the testosterone in a boy's body. This will weaken his bones, his joints, everything, his muscle density. It will all be changed. And unlike what people like to say, hormone blockers are not something that you can just take your kids off of. The damage is done. What happened is the scientific community came out and they didn't like what they had to say, so a bunch of woke activists who care more about feeling good than doing good and don't actually care about trans people but want to act like they do, came out and forced them to be quiet, and then they started spreading the lie that you can just take your kids off of them and no damage will be done. This is something that we see with woke outrage all the damn time anymore. Anytime science comes out against them, they go after these scientists and they shut them down. But this is just more proof that it's parents pushing kids into these. The kid didn't have any clue what the hell gender was. The mother had to teach him, and then the mother started affirming this kid as to be a girl since he was 4.5 years old. Which means this kid didn't choose this gender. The kid is not transgender. The kid didn't choose this. The kid didn't say, I don't feel like the gender I was born as. The mother, since he was 4.5, has been pushing him to be a girl. We call that bad parenting.
Dr. Georgelis has been affirming James, one of the twin boys, as a girl since he was about 4.5 or 5 years old. She has enrolled James in school since kindergarten under the name Luna. James at school lines up in the girls' line, uses the girls' restroom, and is treated completely like a girl. We even saw during this case that James's medical records indicate that he is female.
The mother is just forcing the kid into this role. Imagine 10 years ago, before, trans people blew up and everything, when you had a parent who didn't like what their kid was born as and tried to force them to be the opposite, they were a bad parent. They could not accept nor love their child as they were. And we're now going to give this person praise for doing this. This is messed up, and this is child abuse. Like I said, hormone blockers cause a ton of problems, and then the hormones for the opposite sex cause even more problems. A child is not transgender. They don't even have a full concept of gender. Most of them shouldn't and don't have a concept of what it even is. Kids cannot smoke. They cannot drink. They cannot consent. They cannot do whatever the fuck they want. There's a reason why we have all these laws around protecting kids, and now you're going to say if a kid wants to change their gender, that kid knows absolutely everything, and that kid is very informed and should be able to make his decision like an adult. That is asinine. Again, it's people wanting to feel like they're accepting and feel like they're doing good rather than actually doing something that's helpful and good to people.
The big concern that Mr. Younger has for his boys is that medical records indicate Dr. Georgelis has been consulting and seeking advice on puberty blockers and a medical transition for James, a 7-year-old. The pediatrician's recommendations indicate that Dr. Georgelis and James should be referred to the Genesis Clinic, a transgender medical transition clinic here in Dallas, when James is between 8 and 9 years old. James will turn 8 next summer.
This is a woman who has socially engineered this boy into thinking that he's a girl just so she can score some fucking woke points and feel like she's such a good person for having a transgender kid. This is just like when people used to wish that their kids were gay just so that they could be, that parent who has a gay kid and be so loving and accepting and kind. No, you're the worst fucking people on this planet. Why would you want a kid to go through that? I have friends who are gay who do not want a gay kid. I have friends who are trans who do not want their kids to be trans because it is hell. Why would you want that for your kid? So you can feel like a good person. No kid can pick their gender. No kid should have an understanding of gender. If they have one to this degree, especially, it is clearly parents and teachers that are pushing them into this. This is not the kid's choice, and we need to stop acting like kids transitioning are the child's choice. The child doesn't know what the fuck they're going on. Their parents just keep telling them, no, you're a girl, no, you're a boy, blah, 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 and they get it in their head, and they just keep pushing this ideology onto these kids, harming these kids. It is not the kids choosing these things. And a good parent, should not let a kid choose these things. A parent is not letting a kid do whatever the fuck they want. A parent is making sure your kid is safe and making sure that they learn what they need to survive. What they need to be out in the real world. That is what a parent is supposed to do. They are not supposed to give their kid absolutely everything they ask for. Trust me, they tried it with my generations. Millennials, we were all fucked up, entitled brats who were never told no. And this is what I hate about people coming from California, because everybody's leaving California because it's shit. There's roaming blackouts. The homeless crisis just keeps increasing. There is literal shit everywhere, like actual feces from people. There is a bubonic plague output. And so many more fucking problems going on there. And people are leaving, and they are going to red states because red states are nicer. And that's why Texas is now this big progressive shithole. This needs to be labeled as child abuse, because what you are doing to your kid is abuse. You are giving them hormones to alter their body. You are injecting them with chemicals, either to stop natural processes or to change what those processes are supposed to be. And these kids cannot consent to this kind of thing. A kid will not understand that they feel different because they're a different gender. When you get to be a teenager is about the time, a little bit younger than that, around 12, 13, is when most kids find out that they may be gay. So why would a kid find out that they're a different gender before then? If you want to go into your teenage years and start to realize that maybe you're not the gender you identify with, okay, you have a better concept of gender. Like people going through puberty, they now have a better concept of what's the difference between men and women, and they start noticing the other gender. You may start noticing that you're not the one that you're born as. But to say at 7, and like I said, she was identifying this kid since 4.5. So at the age of 5, she is saying this kid is another gender, and getting this kid to say at 5, a kid does not know these things. It's these kind of people that are ruining the LGBT community. Because let's face it, it's not actual LGBT people that really are the crazy ones here. It's the ones that want to be non-binary and want their kids to transition and all that. It's those people who don't actually fit in that are ruining it. I don't see an actual trans person, male to female, female to male, going around and saying kids should transition. If you don't know, in the trans community, by gender researchers, there's a thing called desistance. And it's where somebody who later on in life who's transitioned realizes that they shouldn't have transitioned and goes to detransition. And this is the majority, 65 to 94% of people are desistant. They detransitioned because the vast majority of people who are trans, especially kids, aren't really trans. There are people who are trans, but we keep pushing it as this cool thing that we want our kids to be it. And we wonder why this gets skewed so much. Trans people have a 41% rate of suicide that does not get better after they transition. Why would you push your kids into that? To be more specific, though, desistance is when a transgender child grows out of it, not just anybody who transitions back like an adult. But what they find is that the vast majority of people with gender or body dysphoria grow out of it after puberty. And the fact that most people who transition turn out to be just gay, whether they're gay men or gay women, they turn out just to be gay. And I think it's because we're pushing this whole transgender thing that people are now starting to think, oh, maybe I'm trans rather than, oh, maybe I'm gay. And trans is starting to be the default. And it doesn't help that we are pushing kids to it. Kids that may end up being gay are now going to think, no, it's not that I'm gay, it's that I really am trans. You shouldn't be pushing anything on your kid. Let your kid grow up and develop and let them figure out what the hell they are. I would encourage you all to look into this, actually look into it. Don't go to your freaking LGBT sites, go to scientific sites. Because we saw what happened when Mario Lopez said kids can't transition. They fucking tried to run him off the internet. Things like puberty blocker result in lower intelligence, they result in more depression, and guess what? If you're postponing puberty, and most kids are getting over the dysphoria after puberty, it only makes the dysphoria worse. It's the reason why gender dysphoria was taken off the mental illness terms, even though it is a mental illness, because they were pressured into it by people who wanted to be so accepting that they don't care about the well-beings of the people that they're trying to accept. Again, it's all pretend. They don't care about you. Because if you did care, one, you wouldn't be trying to hide all the scientific data and run people off the internet the moment that they voice some damn common sense. And two, you would not be pushing your kids into something that has a 41% suicide rate and is much harder on these kids. These kids can get made fun of. These kids can have such a rough life. And these people, this video that I'm about to show you, they even said that the witnesses for the doctor, the people that she went and saw, told her that the easiest thing to do would have the kid go back to being a boy and live his life that way, and told her that being a man or trying to transition into a woman would be much harder on the kid, and she would not give ground. She would not let that happen because she wants to be the parent with the transgender kid. Clearly does not care about this kid and should have no custody and no power over this child if she is willing to put him in such harm.
Even the witnesses for Dr. Georgelis agreed that the quote-unquote easier of the two decisions would be for James to return to identifying as a boy. Unfortunately, we did hear from some expert witnesses that stated socially affirming a child increases their probability of starting puberty blockers and eventually going on cross-sex hormones.
In case you didn't catch that, that means that telling a boy that he's a girl is going to make that kid more likely to go on hormone blockers and then get the other gender's hormones. And that's a no fucking brainer. If you keep telling a kid that they're the opposite gender, the kid's not going to fucking know what the hell they are, and they're just going to do what the parent tells them.
However, in children that are treated with the wait and see approach, not explicitly denying them their feelings, but not socially affirming them in their supposed gender, 85% of those, by the time they reach adolescence, desist or return to identifying with their biological sex.
So the basic conclusion is, what I heard is that this is not the kid's biological mother. So one, they shouldn't even have any say at all when it comes to something like this. And two, what they're wanting to do is they're wanting to block the hormones, which will not allow this kid to grow properly. It could cause depression. It can cause a drop in intelligence, the bone density, joints will not form right, many other problems, and get them to alter their hormones. And that is straight up child abuse. And I think he should find a judge and get it ruled as so. He should find one and just go to court saying that she shouldn't be allowed near this kid because she's trying to force him into child abuse. A 41% suicide rate, and the mother wants this for their kid. You do not care about trans people if you want that for your kid. But I'll wrap it up there. I hope you guys enjoyed this hot take. I don't know what the hell it is with these crazy people who are trying to jump into the LGBT community and try to pretend like they're so accepting and only make them look bad. Because you aren't going to find a gay person, I should say. Because you aren't going to find an actual male to female or female to male trans person who is going to say that kids should be on hormone blockers, that they know what gender they are. And you're not going to hear them talk about this non-binary crap. It's the non-binaries and these people that want to say that they're allies that are just ruining the community. There's so many laws that they got passed. Like one they passed in New York where you have to identify somebody with the gender at work of what they are, or else you can get sued, including made-up pronouns and genders that don't exist, and gender fluid, which means they're male one day, female the next day. So 2 days in a row, you've been referring to them as a dude, and then all of a sudden, the fluidity kicks in. Now they're a female. You said, dude, you can get sued. Who's going to hire a trans person now? All they're doing is making life harder on actual trans people. They want to pretend like they're accepting. They want to feel good, not do good. All they're doing is causing harm to the community.